Hi everyone, my name is LaPortia and I'm a junior.
Hi, my name's Dalila and I'm a junior.
And I'm Charlotte and I'm also a junior.
For today's video, we are going to be performing 6 videos for you.
We're also going to have a few pieces of spoken word to share with you.
We're also going to be having some organic discussions about Black Lives Matter and being Black in general. Hope you enjoy.
There are people in the Black community who supports Black Lives Matter but doesn't support trans or gay lives.
That's just like it's so ironic. As a Black person, like you know what it feels like to be marginalized, but then you're going to feed into that for other people.
Yeah, I've never understood the fact that you have to belittle yourself and belittle others because of your own oppression. So you make people who are like different than you more. It's kind of like a superiority thing. Like, oh, you're
Yeah.
gay, so I'm gonna make you feel bad about being gay because I feel bad about myself
yeah.
because I'm Black.
Yeah, and because people mistreat me for being Black.
Sometimes, like, when people don't support all Black lives and just some of them, like the cis, the straight, the heteronormative Black lives, it just kind of goes to show you that they don't really know what Black Lives Matter stands for. It's supposed to be about equality, and some people want to just take that and run with it and make it into a supremacy type of thing, as well as a type of, instead of trying to make things equal for all Black people, all types of people in this country, it's about them wanting to take the privileges and the spots that white people have
for their own.
They don't want to reform the system. They don't want to change anything. They just want to be in that position of power, which is not something that we should be debating because we've seen how it's been detrimental to our community. So instead, we should be trying to demolish them and not trying to absorb them into our own lives. But that's just me, That's just
that's me too.
No, but that's very real though.
Yeah.
Like there's some like it also connects to like feminism. Like people associate feminism with anti-man, but that's not what the problem. That's not what being a feminist is about. And people be like, BLM is anti-white, but that's not what it's about. It's about equality for everyone. Right now, it's basically saying like, if someone's house is on fire, I'm gonna go help that house because that house is on fire. But it's like, but what about my house? But is your house on fire? No. Right now, Black people are under attack with police brutality, the systemic racism and everything. So it's just not about like people want it to be about them so badly that they forget that there's other people who need help.
Seriously, they only bring up these things when we're talking about the struggles that we face as Black people, as women.
I high-key feel like we went off topic.
I do.
But
they're all interconnected. None of this is in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's like people will bring up Black on Black crime when we're talking about police brutality. People will bring up, oh, they're 13% of the population and they make up 50% of the crime. First of all, that statistic's not really true.
And even if it were true, it'd be evidence of over-policing.
Exactly.
Not only that, but there are statistics that say that Black people are the most exonerated and found innocent after they were charged. So really, that statistic should be way down anyway if the police were doing their jobs. But I digress. But no, I don't digress because that is. I said. Am I still allowed to curse?
Just keep going. We can bleep it out. Keep going.
So like, it just shows like an overlying problem because it's like people will bring up issues. It's like, sure, if that was bothering you since day one, I would wholeheartedly support you. Because there are groups out here that are against gun violence in Black communities, that are against, all types of gang violence, all those things. Nobody out here is advocating for that. But those people have been out here since day one working towards that. But those groups get ignored because y'all want to bring it up to disprove Black Lives Matter when that's not even their mission statement. Like, that's not even what they're supposed to be focusing on. Like, there are groups out here that are doing stuff for, like, to go against gang violence, go against, like, guns on the street, all that other types of stuff. But y'all don't care about them because y'all never really cared. Y'all never really cared about Black lives, so why are you pretending now? Just to be a rebuttal? Like, that's not gonna work. I just don't take that seriously because there really be people out here doing the work, and you just came out of nowhere to try to tell us that worry about your the crime in your neighborhood when y'all even got crime figured out yet.
Facts. Like, I hate when people say, "Oh, but what about black on black crime?" That's not even a real thing because every racial community has crime in their own community. Like, there's white on white crime, there's Asian on Asian crime, etc. Like, it's just not. But it's never talked about because black people are so criminalized. We're used to hearing about black people kill their own kind, but that's not true. It happens, yes, but it happens in every community. But it's not talked about because every other community isn't criminalized like the black community.
Right. And if we really wanted to talk about like something on something crime, like let's talk about man on man crime then, because men be the most victims of a lot of stuff, and then you know who be committing it to them? Other men. Nobody says man on man crime. I ain't never heard that phrase before. Nobody talk about man on man crime. Nobody talk about none of that.
Every serial killer was a white man.
Right. Because if you black, think about it. If a black person kills somebody, you really think that he gonna be out of free and stuff to be doing it again? The police gonna be on his ass.
They're certainly not gonna waltz by a couple police officers like it's just another Tuesday.
The fact that actually happened,
I know.
though, the guy who walked past a police officer with
I thought
guns,
that was like a joke or something when I
but
first
it
read it.
wasn't. Like,
I didn't think that was real when I first saw
Didn't he
it.
get a high five?
Yeah.
literally happened on our campus the other week.
Yeah.
Like, they were just trying to put up a mask,
Right.
and the police came because someone called
For whatever reason.
for literally no reason. They just felt uncomfortable that 3 POC girls were on the campus.
Doing something that they were paid to do.
Yeah.
Whether or not they knew they were paid isn't the point. Just like you could tell that it was some sort of school affiliated activity. Like,
And this is where the art of mind your business should come in.
oh my gosh.
Because you don't know how many times people have called the police and someone ended up dead because someone called the police for a non-violent crime or
Well, my question
nothing happening.
Who you see somebody putting a mask on an elephant, right? Why are you showing up with a gun?
Why are 4 people showing up with a
Why-
gun?
Right,
four
like
people-
what are you gonna do? Shoot the mask?
Or shoot their people?
Oh,
And-
you're right.
And my problem was, like, there was, 3 white boys who came to help and they were let go?
Exactly.
And they were the ones on the elephant.
Yeah.
They didn't go on the elephant.
right.
So that didn't make no type of sense. Like you harassing the wrong people.
There's so many ways that we are mistreated, not just from the police, but just by the system itself. But right now we're focusing on, like, the police.
Right.
Because it's the police who are criminalizing black people for nothing. We can literally breathe and be held down with knees on our necks, being choked out for literally no reason.
Shot while we're just, I don't know, asleep. Like,
But then what really gets me upset is that like people, there will be victims of like police brutality that like passed away. They had kids, they had family and stuff like that. And then you see people bending over backwards, like doing flips and curling their toes just to lick some boots, just to be able to say like, well, he did this in the past and he did this now, and just slandering this dead person's name for no reason, just trying to come up with any excuse why they deserved it. Like all of a sudden when it comes to black people, the phrase bad things happen to good people no longer applies because black people aren't good, I guess. But like it just gets me so infuriated because they will come up with every type of lie, every type of obscure law that doesn't even play in this context to try and justify why this life was taken. And it doesn't there's no reason for it.
right.
There's no reason for you to be putting your hands on someone, like something recently that happened when someone's in a lift, they're the passenger in the lift, the tail light on the lift car was out. Why are you beating up the passenger? It's not his tail light.
Like,
That doesn't make sense. And then people were talking about, oh, well, he refused to give his ID. He refused to give his driver's license when he was in the lift.
he had
should've
no
just gave the
reason to,
license.
though.
But,
It's
like,
not
he
his
was
car.
in a lift.
It's not his
He
car.
was
It's
in a
not
lift.
his. Like, he's not behind the wheel. But like the thing that's really ridiculous to me is the people that stay bringing up police brutality victims' pasts are the main ones that are always like swearing up and down that we need people to abide by the law so that these things don't actually happen. They're the main ones saying that, oh, he should have just complied, she should have just listened to the police. But like the whole point of the justice system is that even people who are guilty, they have rights. Like, even if somebody did something wrong, you have a right to live.
You have a
Like,
right to
none
a
of
fair
this, there's
trial.
no justifying such brute force against people all of the time.
And
Like-
let's talk about how like the force that's used. Like, you never hear anybody talk about doctors. Like, doctors know how to handle a distressed person.
But that's a whole other thing.
But the fact that doctors
And nurses.
can physically restrain someone who is having an episode or is violent
Right.
without killing
hurting
them. Yeah, without killing or hurting them.
Right.
And they're able to restrain them properly and not put them in chokeholds. Like, that's my problem. And also, police are taught shoot to kill, not shoot to injure. Like, why can't you just shoot someone in the fucking foot? Shoot them in the foot. We shouldn't have guns anyway. We should just use rubber bullets to disarm people. But
That's a whole other thing.
if you're
Because
gonna
there's
have
so much
guns,
money
shoot them in the foot.
in guns here.
Shoot them in the foot. Shoot them in the leg so that they can't get away if they're running away.
But in regards to like people on this campus, I've heard things before where it's just like, why would you try to put yourself in a situation where just obey the police, you know, just do what they say so you don't get shot. Like, all of a sudden, inalienable rights don't exist anymore when you're black. But at the same time, like that, I just feel like it's so hypocritical for anyone on this campus, because some of y'all will lie and act like you've never committed a crime in your life. But I know y'all were drinking before the age of 21. I know y'all were smoking some weed on campus.
Let's talk
I know
Come
that y'all
on
were
now.
smoking some cigarettes before 18.
Like,
I know y'all were doing stuff that you were not supposed to be doing, and y'all just got away with it and didn't get caught, so you acted like you didn't do a crime, but you did a crime,
Right.
baby. You did a crime. Like, I'm sorry, but you're a criminal. I don't know how to tell you this, but you're a criminal, and like, I feel for you, and I would never wish any harm on you with your criminal ass. But
the hypocrisy has got to go.
right, but you can't,
like,
you can no longer say that as if you've never done anything wrong. And even if you are a criminal, even if you did do all that stuff I just named that I know you did, I would never wish that a cop would find you and do what they would do to these black people that would do less than that.
just exist.
Like, I would never wish that on you. So why would you wish that on me?
This conversation has clearly gotten away from us, but there's so much more that we need to discuss about Black Lives Matter and about how all Black Lives Matter and all of that. So we want to thank you for letting us have this conversation, letting us reveal how we feel about the topics, and just letting us express ourselves, because as 3 Black women, it is hard. It is really, really hard.
I don't talk like this in class.
Anyway,
And we also hope that this has maybe sparked some thoughts in you. If you, I don't know, for some reason don't feel that all Black Lives Matter, I really hope you question why you feel that way. Where is that coming from?
Who told you that?
and think about the sources that you're using. Even the Bible's not completely 100% to the T. It is misinterpreted in many versions. So I just want you to think about, why do you have those feelings? Where are you getting those feelings? And what are your sources? Who is telling you to feel this way? It is important to have these conversations and to keep this going, because this is an ongoing issue and it's not going to stop anytime soon. We as a collective have to come together and become one.
But before we can do that, we need to self-reflect first. We need to grow within ourselves so that we can grow as a community.
So first and foremost, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the program.
Black race is founded on 2/3 a person, rapings and beatings and suffering that worsens. Black human packages tied up in strings. Black rage can come from all these kinds of things. founded on blatant denial, squeeze economics, subsistence survival, deafening silence and social control. Black rage is founded on wounds in the soul. When the dogs bite, when the bees sing, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't feel so bad.
You took my son away from me. You know how hard it was for me to get him to stay in school and graduate.
Black rage is founded, who fed us self-hatred, lies and abuse, while we waited and waited. Spiritual trees in this grid and its cages. Black rage is founded on these kinds of things. Black rage is founded on training and training, threatening your freedom to stop you complaining, poisoning your water while they say it's raining. Are you mad for complaining, complaining? Old-time bureaucracy, drugging the youth. Black rage is founded on blocking the truth. Murder and crime, compromise and distortion. Sacrifice, sacrifice, who makes this fortune? Greed falsely called progress, such human contortion. Black rage is founded on these kinds of things. When the dogs bite, when the beatings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't feel so bad. Weird surprise, is it myth or illusion? Forcing you back into purpose confusion, like human trafficking or blood transfusion. Black rage is founded on these kinds of things. Victims of violence, both psyche and body. Life out of context is living ungodly. Politics, greed falsely called wealth. Black rage is founded on denial of self.
And why is that doll pretty?
Because he's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
The dogs bite, when the beatings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember all these kinds of things, and then I don't feel so bad. So bad.
I think we've got to see that a riot is the language of the unheard.
It's not a place you can get to by a boat or a train. It's far, far away, behind the moon, beyond the rain. Picture with me you're alone in the sky. No one can touch you, you're flying too high. Free from all violence, no worries, no cares. Just close your eyes and I can take you there. Fly, come let's fly. Someday never fitting in, just sings the song, happy just to live, unafraid, Picture with me, you're alone in the sky. No one can touch you, you're flying too high.
The ache in my heart. You walk in and the whole world stops. My eyes gravitate to you as if it's second nature. My breath gets caught in my throat as I look at you from head to toe, to admire the authority and respect you have over this room. Your presence is like an unclipped rose bush, beautiful from afar, but coming too close means I'll get pricked. Your eyes rake over the room looking for a target. The butterflies in my stomach roar as your eyes fall upon me. Every muscle in my being screams run, danger, leave, but my mind tells me to stay still, be natural. One wrong move and I'll be another hashtag. One wrong move and I'll be another statistic to end up in a body bag. So I smile. I make myself look small and not worth your time, but armed at the ready. But your preconceived notions about me screams guilty. You are the predator and I'm your prey. It's a constant game of chess, but every time it's played, it always ends up in a mess. So how did we get here? It's not your fault. I don't blame you. There's a thin line between love and hate, and we are caught up in a war in the shadows. The self-proclaimed angels and the saviors versus the people who just want to live, versus the dark beggars in the ghetto who needs to be saved or eliminated. This war is ancient and never ending, so I don't blame you. We've been taught to admire and hate at the same time, taught that there's the high and mighty and the low and the helpless. We are criminal and we are savage, yet you love us. You laugh when your daughter says, yes, queen, but fail to acknowledge the true queens that made that vernacular contradiction. You love us so much that you take credit for us, contradiction, yet you can't help to hate us for finding the joys in ourselves, contradiction, so I don't blame you. I blame the society that raised us and pitted us against each other, the society that fed you lies and made you believe that I, a black woman, was a threat to your existence. So here I am. So here we are. Your weapon versus mine, the bullet versus a video, a chokehold versus my cries. I may die, but so may you. A living, walking contradiction.
I took your heart. I did things to you only lovers would do in the dark. It made you a god. Priests, popes, and preachers would tell me I did wrong, but hey, it made a nigga flip. What do I say to make me exist? Oh, stranger. Still don't know my name. You still don't know my name. And I would die a slave. And right now, but you still don't know my name. Yeah.
How can you be so cruel and not do a thing to me? How can you make me change every aspect of myself and not talk to me? How can you make me feel unworthy, ugly, and lesser than you? Why do you have so much power over how I see myself? Straight hair is better. Being thin is better. Being a sexual person is better. Being white is better. How can you stand there and watch me destroy myself trying to be you? How can you stand there and watch as I risk cancer to lighten my skin? How can you stand there and watch me pull and burn hairs out of my scalp trying to make them straighter? How can you stand there and watch the war between dark skins and light skins? How can you stand there and be beautiful? Is this not what you wanted? How can you promote whiteness and forget the other colors on the spectrum? You are literally destroying a whole community because of one word. How can you stand there and be beautiful? Am I not good enough?
because it seems like every time I go and turn on the TV, it's a slap in the face and a constant reminder that I will never be beautiful. But I am. Go ahead and try to diminish what's left of my pride. Do your worst. How can you?
You look at me like I'm unfamiliar, acting brand new, like you never knew that you liked them thick. I've been carrying this weight in the world beneath these braids, and I'm confused. Would you take the pain that came with all the parts you wanna claim for you? You want my thighs, you want my stride, but not this melanin. You want my hair, but you don't care for this complexion. I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman. Cornbread fed, sweet tea sipping, Nubian queen with the skin that glistens. I'm a black woman. The world tells me there is space for me if I cinch it up and I sew it in. The world tells me it'll all be mine with some lashes on and some lighter eyes. The world tells me it'll work for me if I let them do a little surgery. The world tells me it'll change for me with some longer nails and some lightning cream. But I'm a black woman. Lose myself to prove myself. 'Cause I'm a black woman. Too good to hide these. 'Cause I'm a black woman. 'Cause I'm a black
What do you see first? Is it my big brown eyes, my medium-length hair that tends to be dyed a new color every other month? Or maybe it's my intellect or my courage? Or the fact that I'm shy but outspoken at the same time? Tell me, when I walk by, do you say I'm pretty or that I'm pretty for a black girl? When you hear me speak, do you listen or say that I talk smart for a black girl? When you see me stay silent, do you ask why or tell me that I'm not black for being loud? When you see me, what is the first thing that pops up into your head? Are they things that you yourself got from me or the stereotypes that are embedded in your head? I'm sorry that you're missing out on the person that is me, because it seems you can't see me without seeing my race, without those preconceived judgments. But it's okay, because this girl with all this melanin identity will be great one day. But I guess you couldn't see that either.
Ashensia. First thing in the morning, when I wake up, thank God for life. Look in the mirror, say, bitch, I'm the best, 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 best. Way too blessed, 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 blessed. Bitch, I'm the best, 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 best. Way too blessed, 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 blessed. No matter what you try, you could never be me, never I. Keep petting from the side, make me take this blood clot worldwide, wide. Never had to pretend, 10. I'm a 5 times 2, that's a 10. Never ever beg friend. If they're not with me, no worry about them. Whoa, blind man can see. day, first thing in the morning. When I wake up, thank God for life. Look in the mirror, say, bitch, I'm the best, 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 best. Way too blessed, 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 blessed. Bitch, I'm the best, 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 best. Way too blessed, 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 blessed.
My power, it comes from within. It's embraced by the skin, fortified by my melanin, and full of flavor so rich, one whiff is all it takes to leave you reeling. But you don't know the hell I've been in. You don't know the feeling. Trapped in this casing for more than 20 years, all I could do was mask my fear as I walked down the halls, shopped down the aisles, get in line, single file. A smile traced my lips, but my eyes were always sorting through people who'd brighten my night and people who'd bombard my world of its color. I'll be damned if I let a flickering streetlight interrupt the calm of my nighttime sky. She's a constant hum. It's always her, and I won't let day break if it means waking to a world rid of honey and cocoa butter dreams. I find comfort in truth and the extreme. Baked, burned to dark brown perfection, and I'll be damned if I lessened it for anybody. I was a black pearl coasting a tide of white foam, and I'll be damned if I ever forget it again. Damn. My mind screams, my lips freeze shut. My nose picks up on his plans of arson before my ears tell me that he says brown is an ugly color. That's a memory I'll take to the grave, because my tone was in his colored pencil, but he was my friend. I choose once more to be willfully blind. I have to get out of here, but first I have to survive. You don't know what it takes to shake the stairs, but honestly, I don't know either. I hate that I got used to them, to pretending they weren't hot to the touch, as if the blades didn't make me bleed 1,000 liters with every incision, to hoping one wouldn't accidentally cut too deep, pierce a bruised artery, discover the bubbling red that's been left on the stove for too long, but not before it's too late, not before being burned. They'd reach my eternal fever and freeze in shock, because to them, I was supposed to be a friend, not an angry black woman. I'm just talking about colored pencils, he'd say. Don't take it personal. I'd rehearsed it all in a second's fraction. We both know what you said to me. And we both knew I'd gain no traction here. You don't know what it takes to shake the snakes out of my hair. Friends always slipping and falling and finding their way into my fluffy tresses. Should have had a caution when wet sign, because I wasn't trying to make any product of plasma messes. These people had me stressed and depressed, but forget well dressed, because did you see our school uniforms? You don't know, and you're lucky you won't ever know. But me, I'm lucky I was born the way that I was, that I built a resilience in me that no one else does. That glare you tossed me across the room all those years I caught, but this time I fumble it. You won't ever know what it took, but you're a part of the many others that it took for me to revel in my truth, that I am, in fact, wrapped with hex 6E4424 and a beautiful glow of 734726 when the sun gives me a kiss. A color so rich he'd want to pop it in his mouth, but vows never to say he cares any more for me than my taste, although he'd never dare sharpen his tongue to say it out loud. I am a flavor, a realness you can't help but crave. My brothers and sisters before me paved the way to your style, your art. Hell, we are the blueprint. We're a force. We cook up a whole storm, but you invite yourself to the table and eat it all up, and now sit in front of me and burp out a tired period. It's period. This was an era, a period of exhaustion that I hated and I loved. It let me grow and it left me jaded, but I've left you on the other side now. And in this moment, I mark the start of a new one in me, an era where I'm unafraid to be seen. This time, your hating eyes showed me I was too humble. It took me a while, but it came after all this time. This time, from you, I will not hide my power.
This that rhythm, this that lightning, this that burn, this ain't no perm. This that nappy, this that herb, this that kinfolk, this that skinfolk, this that war, this that bloodline on the front line, ready for war. Where you gon' run? Get it loose, get it low, get it low. Why you get it loose, get it loose, get it low, get it low. Oh, oh, gotta protect my grace, keep it locked in the safe. Don't make me get back to my ways. My power they never take.
Don't ever take my power, my power, my power. Don't ever take my power, my power, my power. They feel away, oh wow. They feel away, oh wow. Don't ever take my power, my power, my power. Don't ever take my power, my power, my power. They feel away, oh wow. They feel away, oh wow.
Thank you for watching. Thank you, Tusk and the Africana Center for having us.
And enjoy the rest of the benefit concert.
Bye.